I think that's so interesting because there are such mixed feelings that that woman's going through. And on the one hand, she's saying there are really good things about polygamy, but on the other hand, a major struggle to the point where she's thinking about leaving. Iman, did that strike any chords with you, with the women you talk to?
That's what I hear. That's what I exactly hear from women. I believe, and she said it clearly, that I'm stressed and I will need help. And women actually seek help from a woman psychologist like myself and other colleagues as well in that area, that they can't talk and speak freely because of the religion factor, that they want to support the religion as well. But the pain of jealousy and living in such a relation where seeing their children growing in such a divided family and household definitely affect them. And of course she said that clearly.
You two talked about this jealousy that you felt before, and I just wonder how you've reconciled that. How did you get, or have you reconciled that? Do you still feel that way?
Really, Mark's the one that, yes, I was feeling, did experience jealousy, but when you have a man that each night when he's with you, he tells you how much he loves you and how much he's like devoted to you, that sort of pushes away any feelings.
Dorothy? Feelings of jealousy?
Oh, I don't have any feelings of jealousy because I think it was very gracious for my sister to let me share her husband.
Mark?
I'd like to just go back a little bit from that to what you asked Dorothy before about being the second one into the relationship, and it's something that doesn't come across to a lot of people, I guess, is the discrimination she suffers for that. Because polygamy is illegal here and I can't marry her the same way I married Belle, she is regarded as something separate to this relationship. She's never regarded by outside forces, especially when it comes to going somewhere as a family, something like that. Anywhere you go as a family, you get a certain price if you've got 2 adults, 2 children. We're not regarded as a family. Even, for example, seating us on the airplane on the way over here, they separated Dorothy from us. Our names are the same, hers is different, boom, she goes at the back. So there is a lot of little things like that, that because of this prohibition on marriage, she suffers from.
Interesting. How does that feel when that happens?
I suppose it's like that. There's nothing I can do about it, I suppose.
Who gets the front seat in the car?
They do.
Surprisingly,
Paul, what did you want to say?
The law doesn't see a lot of overt cases of polygamy because it is illegal in Australia, and it's a really difficult issue for the law to grapple with, of how do you divide up rights and property rights between the 2 families. And this is the bad news for Mark, is that Mark, mate, you better keep these 2 lovely ladies happy all your life because you're a living legal guinea pig. If one of them were to leave you, it's a very, very difficult legal issue of how do you divide then the assets between a husband and a wife and a de facto wife, because the law says you can have a married wife and a de facto wife at the same time. You can't marry them.
But you can have them.
You can have them.
In common law.
And mate, if 2 of them leave you at the same time, well, pack your bags and go yourself.
Why do you say that? Because
the law's got to cater for all of their needs, and even in circumstances where one has had a longer relationship than the other, I can imagine a judge feeling pretty sympathetic to both of the wives, more so than the husband perhaps.
So theoretically, if somebody, say, had 4 wives and was legally married to one in Australia, but the other 3 were considered wives, would they all be entitled to de facto rights under the law?
Even though those other ones, other than the first marriage, is regarded as a void marriage or just a common law marriage, they have rights of property claims, they have rights of spouse maintenance, and on death they have rights of succession as well. And it's a very, very complicated web to try and unravel all that in this kind of situation.
How have you addressed some of those issues, the 2 of you?
Mark?
Well, I guess it comes more from me, doesn't it? Because if it would be my assets that would be
But
split
they
up.
could take... I mean, if for argument's sake, one of you 2 fell out with Mark and decided to leave him, have you thought through the implications of that, of who'd be entitled to what?
Well, we sort of have come to an agreement based on the fact that Belle and I had a certain amount when Dorothy came into the relationship. That remains Belle's on one side, and everything we've got since then as a family, and everything Dorothy brought in is hers. Everything we've got together would then be divided half-half, and that's even in my will.
And how would the law view that?
I think that's a very nice agreement, but we'll do what we think is right. Unless you have some binding agreement, and I don't think you can have a binding agreement between three people of that kind of nature. You can have a kind of a prenuptial or financial agreement between a husband and a wife, but I don't see that you can have any binding agreement that would force the court to do what you want to do between 3 people, 4 people, 5 people.
So what are you saying then, Paul? Are you saying that the law can't deal with polygamy at the moment?
No, it can and it has to, but it does it in its own way. And the best advice I can give to Mark is to keep everybody happy.
Sadly, my son is not talking to me yet. But my daughter, she has sort of accepted it.
Was it worth it? Tonight we're talking about polygamy and how common it is in Australia. What does the law say, Paul, about a man bringing other wives into the country?
Australian law only recognises under the Marriage Act the first marriage that's occurred, and in a migration sense it's very hard for a husband to bring more than one wife into Australia. The second wife, or the third wife or the fourth wife, they can't come in as a spouse accompanying that person into Australia.
Mm. Is there a case for the law changing in respect of any of this, do you think?
There's been no indication whatsoever that the federal government has any interest in changing the Marriage Act to recognise polygamy. They've made that quite clear. There's been no suggestion that Australian law would give recognition in terms of family law to Indigenous laws as they apply, except in some particular circumstances. And there's been a debate in the last 12 months about whether Sharia law should receive some recognition in Australia, and again, the government seems quite clear that that's not going to be the case.
Peter Richardson, looking at history, how does society fare in relation to polygamy and monogamy? Do we have any indication of whether societies are more or less cohesive with one or other system?
Well, the research that we did suggests that polygamy generates several different kinds of conflicts. If there's a lot of plural marriage, then many men get left out of the many men at the lower end of the socioeconomic stratum in society don't have a chance to get a wife at all. And these men are, well, unmarried men in general are trouble, and men that have very low prospects for marriage are much more likely to engage in crime and to abuse drugs and to otherwise be a problem in societies. And then men hoarding resources to invest in getting more wives is a big problem. So the GDP per capita of countries that have monogamy seems to be higher, partly because wealthy men in polygynous societies particularly spend a lot of resources on extra wives. In monogamous countries, they invest that in the economy and grow the economy.
Mark, you and Belle don't have children.
No.
Dorothy, you left your children in Malaysia when you came into this relationship. How old were your children?
My son will be 22 this year, and my daughter will be 17.
How did they feel about what you've done?
It wasn't easy when I left for Australia, and I told later on I did write a letter to my husband saying that I wanted a separation, and I did. Well, my children knew that our relationship in Malaysia wasn't really good. Of course, being children, they were not happy about it.
Do you have a relationship with them now?
Sadly, my son is not talking to me yet. But my daughter is communicating with me, and she has sort of accepted it. Though my son did email to Mark a few years ago saying that he's glad that I'm happy now and told Mark to take care of me.
Was it worth it, Dorothy?
Well, I think it's worth it because I was not happy back in Malaysia, and I don't think as parents that I should just live my life just for my kids and not having my own happiness. Because eventually the children are going to grow up. And once they leave the nest, you're left all alone. So I think it is worth it. Because Mark and Belle loves me very much. It's worth it.
And that's something I think's been missed a little bit here, is the fact that our situation is quite unique, and it's based on love. There's nothing cultural, nothing religious about it. It's based purely on love and trust between us.
That's what makes it very interesting.
Yeah, that makes it work, love.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and thank you all very much. It's been a very informative discussion. We can wrap it up here now, but you can keep talking online. Go to our website, Twitter or Insight's Facebook page. Next week, an unusual insight. Bikies, police and lawmakers all in the one room. We'll be back next week. Stay tuned for Dateline and World News. Thank you, everybody.
Right across Australia, thousands of people share a dream.
Want to be a star, want to be in Bollywood.
I love Bollywood. I love the colours.
Got that mix of a dinky-die Aussie. I look the part of a Bollywood stars.
Bollywood, twice as big as Hollywood and 1 billion times more competitive.
Sorry, can I start again?
No, you can't.
Okay.
This is a chance to cut through all the ladder climbing and just get straight to the top in front of one of the biggest producers in Bollywood.
600 hopefuls, 3 judges.
If you don't have the look, you're nobody in Bollywood.
And only one winner.
You have the zinc factor and you have the star quality.
I just love seeing country towns, South Australian in Bollywood. Whoever goes to India, the Fan 6 will be the first Australians ever to be sent to the world's biggest film industry and be mentored by the top guys in the world.
An Indian audience on the West.
Is there a Bollywood star in Australia?
Watch out, India. The Aussies are coming!
Bollywood Star, Saturday, 7:30 on